All right, good morning. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another webinar hosted by Seek and Andy Starnes of Insight Fire Training. We have Andy here who brings over 30 years of experience from his career as a battalion chief in Charlotte, North Carolina. So Andy, thanks for being here today to talk with everyone about the value of a decision-making camera. If you guys have any questions, please just type them in the chat. We'll do our best to answer them in a timely manner throughout this webinar. With that being said, I hope everyone enjoys it. And Andy, take it away.
Well, thank you, Jordan. So, welcome to the webinar discussing the value of decision-making TICs. We're going to discuss what a decision-making thermal imaging camera is and break down the 4 different models that are currently offered by Seek Thermal within that category. So first, I want to thank Seek Thermal for sponsoring these so we can offer free training. As Jordan says, my name's Andy Starnes. I've been in the fire service now 34 years, retired 2 years ago from a career department in North Carolina. I've been involved in thermal imaging since 2010. Started Insight Fire Training 2015. We travel internationally, train firefighters across the globe, and we have developed the first collegiate-based thermal imaging firefighting certification in the world in partnership with Western Kentucky University and Kentucky Thermal Institute, which is available through that QR code in the upper left-hand corner, completely online. And we've worked with Seek Thermal now for the past 4 years, assisting with product development, consulting, and education. And we train firefighters 1 week a month around the world for free, courtesy of Seek Thermal. My world's pretty simple. It's my faith, my family, and the fire service in that order. I've not always gotten that correct, so I always make sure I start off with that so people don't think more of me than they should. But this is my world right here. My wife, Sarah, and our daughter, Emma. We're currently traveling in Kansas. Our daughter is in zoo camp this week, and we try our best to bring light to the darkness and encourage firefighters as we travel and encourage people in the areas of behavioral health and encouraging firefighters there and showing them the way to see their way home using a thermal imaging camera to find the fire, find the victim, and get home to their families. And we're also board members on a nonprofit called Fire Alarm Task Force. If you'd like to donate to support firefighters, we'd appreciate that. So let's start with what we're here to learn about today. Many of you have sent us quite a few questions, and we appreciate your feedback. One of the things we've learned in interacting with firefighters is we get this common question: why are there so many various models of thermal imaging cameras? Well, we can break that down for you. We're going to give you our answer, the technical answer. We probably won't give you the exact answer, but we'll give you the best answer we can. Many manufacturers offer various types and models of fire service TICs. You've learned, if you spent time with us, the 2 types of TICs that are being marketed or sold to firefighters are situational awareness TICs and decision-making TICs. However, they've broken those down even further into different models based on performance and options. That provides firefighters or fire departments with user-specific options based on a cost benefit for those options, and not everyone needs every option. And some of these options are context specific, such as survey mode and seek is a very valuable feature for size up, locating heat sources and things of that nature that would not be colorized earlier if they were using TI basic. This is also important because many fire departments deal with budget constraints. So they can buy a camera that has the same performance without all the extra options, but still get the same performance and quality in the basic models out there. But it's also very important that firefighters and fire departments primarily, especially those in procurement or purchasing, understand the difference in these models. We talk to firefighters across the globe, and in many cases, they buy a model of camera or brand without understanding its context, its purpose, its performance, what it will do, what it won't do. They assume that it comes with certain features and it doesn't. They're not doing their work, if you will, on that. So don't assume that one type or one model will fit all situations, because they don't. And then another thing for us to understand is that fire departments, in many cases, use AFG grant funding to purchase equipment. If you're purchasing thermal imaging cameras, you must understand that if you're using AFG grant funding from the federal government, it requires that you purchase an NFPA, 1801 certified model. It's also important that you know that NFPA 1801 has changed throughout the years. It was first established in 2013, then upgraded in 2018, upgraded in 2021 with some major changes like removing the spot temperature from TI Basic and then it's been incorporated or consolidated now into the standard NFPA 1930. It is important that fire departments and firefighters stay up to date with these changes because some of these changes directly affect you and what feature you get, what feature you don't get, how it's upgraded, how it's more durable, and why that matters to you. This is my good friend Mike Daly doing a class with my good friend John Nixon, my friend Danny Arroyo, chief up that way. Took this great picture showing different cameras all looking at the same fire. So there's different models for different purposes at different price points to summarize. Why is this important to you? Because this right here, this is a 2001, 2000 model Alert MX, which was one of the best cameras out there when it was made 25 years ago. You got to understand that I travel a lot and I see some amazing people and amazing fire stations, amazing cultures. One of the most common things I see is multi-million-dollar fire stations, million-dollar fire trucks, amazing equipment, amazing people, and 20 to 25-year-old thermal imaging cameras on the best fire trucks in the world. Why are we not upgrading our equipment? And to put this into statistical data for you to put this so you know it's not just my experiential data of me seeing this. In 2015, the U.S. Fire Administration showed that only 70% of America had one operating thermal imaging camera on every fire scene. One. In 2020, when we did our survey with Firehouse Magazine, 40% of the U.S. did not know the difference between a situational awareness camera and a decision-making camera. And that's evident by the number of emails and phone calls we get about asking, will this camera do the same as the other? And many fire departments, even worse, are using industrial thermal imaging cameras that have either been given to them, donated to them, or they purchased them incorrectly for firefighting purposes. This is inherently dangerous because they are not designed for that. They will fail. They're not designed to go in there and show that. They have different color palettes, different options, require extensive training, and can have deadly consequences. So please understand that if we're going to buy a device, we need to do our homework, find out what's best for us, and buy the device that is actually rated for firefighting, not for automotive inspections. Many of you have heard me discuss this before, but I like to break things down into simple, easy to understand, what I call experientially relevant statements. And one of the things we've done is come up with something called the rule of twos. There's two types of thermography, two types of cameras, and two modes of operation and way cameras operate. Thermography is the art and science of temperature and heat measurement, and it's broken down into two types, quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative is exact measurements where they use specific cameras, industrial settings, and how they do that's through training and very different cameras than what the fire service does. In many cases, qualitative can be done in industrial concepts where they're looking for just the problem, anomalies. But firefighting cameras are qualitative in nature, where we're just looking for anomalies such as where's the fire? Where's the problem? We're not looking for exact measurements. The reason I tell people the difference between these two is they're trying to make a qualitative device do quantitative functions. They're trying to make it get exact measurements, and it was never intended to do that. They're not thermometers. They can be hundreds of degrees off. They see surface temperatures, not gas temperatures. They are not good to be used on things like EVs, lithium ion fires, things of that nature. They'll see heat late in that respect, and they don't see through things. They need to understand what they see and what they don't see. And there's two types of cameras, situational and decision making. And those are usually smaller cameras with less insulation. And then there are more durable cameras with bigger screens, such as decision making, which we'll talk about today. And then there's two modes of ways these cameras operate. Automatic, you turn them on, they're required to start in TI basic, versus selectable. You push a button and you go into a plus mode, such as survey mode that's showed in the bottom left here. We're showing the exact same camera, the Attack Pro, in TI basic in the top picture, and survey mode in the bottom, looking at the exact same fire, showing it to you differently based on its programming for that specific context. And if you know how to use these properly, it's a game changer in helping you diagnose where the fire is, find problems, find people, and do this quicker, safer, and more efficiently than before. Situational awareness cameras I mentioned are typically smaller. In many cases, some of them are slower. Some of them have between 9 and 16 hertz refresh rate. Some of them are much lower resolution, as you see on the cameras on the left here, which are 19,200 pixels. In 2013, to put it in perspective, NFPA said a camera shall have 320 by 240 pixels, so you'll be able to identify a small child's hand at a preset distance, which was approximately 15 feet. So in 2016, for some reason, we went back down in resolution to 19,200 pixels. Granted, that level of infrared technology, the pixel count was a little bit better than a 20-year-old pixel count that was at 19,200 pixels. But then we came up with devices such as the MSA Lunar, the Seek 5.200, the Seek 5.300, and the MSA iTic, which were faster and had higher resolution. So those are more of what we would currently classify as a situational awareness camera that will help you find your way out of a fire, because they are faster and they do have a better picture quality than some of the slower, lower resolution devices that are out there. And keep in mind, these devices were originally designed to prevent firefighter disorientation, not to replace decision-making cameras. Many fire departments, unfortunately, bought these and threw away their handheld cameras that were bigger and more durable, not knowing if they bought the 9 hertz version that they were going to frustrate their firefighters, because 9 hertz is 9 frames per second and your eye sees around 27 frames per second. So that was going to cause firefighters to have to slow down. And then some of these devices that put the screens in the mask put them right below their eye, 3 to 4 inches away, when a lot of firefighters cannot see up close. They have troubles with eyesight as they age. It's a very common problem. So we need to make sure that we're using cameras that can help us find our way and we can actually see to find our way. When we talk about decision-making cameras, however, one of the criteria is higher resolution. What does higher resolution mean? Well, let's break this down into 2 different definitions of higher resolution. There's the fire service definition of higher resolution, and then there's the industrial version of higher resolution. The NFPA says that we shall have a minimum of 320 by 240. If you do the math, that's 76,800 pixels. That's what they define as high resolution. You work in industry or industrial thermography, they say that you should start with a 640 by 480 resolution camera, which is 4 times that, 307,200 pixels. A civilian right now, if they have the pocketbook, can go out and buy a camera that has 1.3 million pixels of resolution for inspection purposes or hobbyists. Now you got to have a pretty decent pocketbook. I think that camera's $38,000, but that's high resolution. We're talking about fire service definition of higher resolution. NFPA has defined it by 320 by 240. So if you're looking at firefighting cameras, in my opinion, you should not go lower than 320 by 240 if you want to help your firefighters see the problems in front of them. These cameras will allow you to see approximately 10 to 15 feet of distance in optically dense smoke in most environments. Not every environment. We can talk about contraindications if you go back to our Thermal Imaging 101 webinar. They also say that we should have cameras that operate at least 25 frames per second at 25 hertz. Why is that a standard? Because that's how fast we process information on average. If it's slower than that, it will slow down decision making. In an environment where seconds make the difference between life and death, firefighters can't afford to have a slower camera. They can't pause and wait and pause and wait, when that could equate to them getting injured, lost, disoriented, or killed, or missing victims, missing important information. Many of these cameras now follow the interoperability standard, which you see under NFPA 1801, whether they're certified or not. And you'll know that by looking at the camera and saying, I noticed that camera and the other brand and that brand all had a green power button. Wonder why. Notice that the battery bar or symbol was 4 bars and it was green. Notice that the color indicator on the right side, the color barbs on the right-hand side every time. I noticed that when the cameras recorded, they had the same red dot with a green outline, because they all try to follow those interoperability standards so that a firefighter who uses brand X and switches to brand Y doesn't cause any major changes in them. And in many cases, firefighters work at several departments. Yes, America, firefighters have to work more than one job. Many firefighters do not make enough money, so they have to work several jobs to pay for their basic household needs. So they may work at a department that uses a SEEK camera on 10 days a month, and they may work another 20 to 30 hours a week at a department that uses another brand camera. So it's important that these cameras, these decision-making cameras, all operate basically the same way and have the same buttons and icons so firefighters can understand them. These devices are also much more durable than situational awareness cameras. If you look at the testing they have to go through, it's pretty intense. They have to have at least a 500-degree internal overheat rating for 5 minutes or 260 degrees Celsius for interference overseas, or 250 degrees Fahrenheit or around 120 degrees Celsius for around 20 minutes. They have to be able to take a 6-foot drop onto concrete. Many of the camera manufacturers go even further by placing these in what looks like a dryer drum that is a round rotating drum that has uh, the sides of it are just bars, rebars, and they just rotate and beat that camera up for a long time. Then they also have a machine that presses the button for thousands of times to make sure that they operate properly. They test all of these things to make sure they're durable because they also know what kind of environment these devices are going to go into and how they're going to be treated. They're going to be dropped, things are going to fall, things are going to happen to them. In Seek Thermal's case, they have Gorilla Glass on the screen, which is very durable. And then the lens on the front has a kind of like a cantilever effect on the front of the camera. So it's harder to hit the lens. Lenses are the most common thing that are broken in thermal imaging cameras. Seek is one of 2 manufacturers that I'm aware of that if you break that lens, you can still function in the fire because it has lens redundancy, because there's lens behind that on the actual detector. So you still need to have the lens replaced after you're done, but you're able to finish your task and go back and have that replaced. Another important feature of decision-making cameras is a wider and brighter screen, usually 3x3. So it allows firefighters to see better. And if we're all honest, we like big screens. Otherwise, we wouldn't have big screen TVs in our home. So that's the basic breakdown of why a decision-making camera needs to meet these criteria. And that criteria comes from, if you want to know, from the NFPA 1801 standard. And you say, well, why does it come from that criteria if they're not certified like that? Well, let me give you a little backstory. In 2016, when I started pushing out the words situational awareness versus decision-making cameras, I took a lot of flack from industry and from a lot of people saying you shouldn't say that. Well, it's interesting because another manufacturer came up with the term situational awareness camera, but Insight Fire Training pushed the term decision making because these terms were used in the NFPA standard, and whether the camera was certified to the standard or not, the majority of these decision making cameras, as we classified them, met these criteria so that firefighters would be able to use them easily and perform well. They would have a higher resolution, they'd be faster, durable, interoperability, ease of use. The buttons have to be operable with a gloved hand, and for safety. In many cases, the older cameras didn't have the same features. These newer cameras in safety, they have EMI coatings in them. So if you key up your radio, it didn't produce radio frequency interference. They had to be IP67 or non-incendive rated, excuse me, which means it wouldn't produce a spark in an IDLH environment. A lot of people say, well, your camera's not intrinsically safe. Well, currently, there is no fire service camera that's intrinsically safe. Traeger was the last one to make an intrinsically safe camera, and that camera is no longer in production. Intrinsic safety means it's explosion proof. You look up a camera that is intrinsically safe, you will find one called a FLIR C5. It's basically a camera inside of a metal box where there's nothing in, nothing out. So very few cameras are intrinsically safe anymore. They're IP67 rated, which is rated on dust intrusion and water intrusion, and they are tested to take a beating, and they're designed not to produce a spark in that environment. And you'll know that because the battery compartment is difficult to open or requires a tool in many cases to change the battery because they don't want a firefighter to pull the battery out and put it back in an environment where that could create a spark. So that's your overview of why we focused on that criteria. And we focused on that and focused on it, and that has become a universally accepted term, even though people fought against it. The reason we did that is because if we didn't, when you go back to NFPA 1801 in 2013, the reason that standard came across was everybody and anybody was making up terms, creating their own cameras, creating their own icons, and it was more confusing than it is today. So we do need some standardization. We do need some uniformity, and we definitely need ease of use and interoperability, because the last thing firefighters need is more complexity in their line of work. Seek, on the other hand, has made their devices the simplest, easiest to operate, and easiest to understand, in my opinion, when it comes to training, education, and overall use and interpretation of that data. Now, to break that down, we get a lot of questions. Well, what's the difference between this model, that model, and that? When we're talking about decision-making cameras, Seek offers 4 models in their decision-making lineup: the Attack Pro, the Attack Pro S, the VRS, and the Attack Pro Plus. The most common question we get is, what's the difference? I don't understand. Well, there's this thing called Google, and if you type it in, it'll tell you, even though it'll give you an AI response. Being a little smart out there, because people use Facebook instead of looking up stuff now. And I'm going to break this down so you don't have to ask Google. If you look at these models, they look exactly the same. And from the outside, they are. From the inside, that's where we change briefly in each one, where each one has a little bit more options or a little bit more of a certification for different contexts and purposes. If you'll notice that the top of each one of them, the top of them has a different colored sticker on it. Well, let's look at that up close so you can see that. So you'll be able to answer this question next time somebody asks you. If you look at the top of these models, they have 4 different stickers on them. The Attack Pro, the basic model, which is TI Basic and TI Basic Plus, which is your spot temperature, is a black sticker. That's that model. The Attack Pro S, which is their newest model, is basically the Attack Pro with survey mode added. That's it. And it has a blue sticker. If you get the VRS, which is my favorite, which stands for Video, Record, and Survey, that has an orangish red sticker. And here it looks red. My eyes, of course, I'm slightly colorblind in some areas, is a little bit orange. And then if you need the NFPA certification, or your department requires that, the Attack Pro Plus has a yellow sticker on it, which actually, if you look really closely, has the SEI logo down there at the bottom and talks about being certified to the NFPA standard. By the way, that is a requirement if they are certified to have this sticker on there to say that it meets the current standard, and they're not allowed to remove it, supposedly. But you know how that goes. But if you look at the top of these 4 models, you can easily identify which one is which, and then we can break down the features and the associated specific performance of each one. Let's start with the Attack Pro, the basic model. It is considered an entry-level decision-making TIC. It has the lowest cost and essential features, and if you so choose to, if you've already bought this model, you could add survey mode to it later. That is to help our existing customers who decided, hey, I bought the Attack Pro early on, but I like survey mode, but my department's not going to let us, buy another one. Well, you can go to your vendor or go to Seek Thermal, and you can pay them the extra fee, whatever it is for that, and they'll give you a download firmware update and show you how to do that. And then it becomes basically an Attack Pro S. The Attack Pro S does not offer video, but does give you the benefit of survey mode. This is for fire departments who realize the value of an investigative mode color palette. If you've heard me speak before, you know that I hammer the power of an investigative mode. The majority of firefighters in the world do not respond to gray and white threats on their camera. They do not catch it under stress at 3 in the morning or in zero visibility environments and wiping their face piece. They miss it. So if I can colorize that threat earlier for them to give them an idea where it is or how severe it is very helpful in things like size up and other things that we'll discuss. This is your first 2 models out of the 4. So you have the Attack Pro, which is a very popular, very durable, high performance decision-making camera, but it does not have any other features other than TI Basic Plus, which is the spot temperature, and it does have the flashlight feature, which is flashlight features across every single camera. That is your Attack Pro, and then you have the Attack Pro S, which is the exact same model with survey mode added. When we look at the last 2 models, we have VRS and the Attack Pro Plus. The difference is VRS stands for Video, Record, and Survey. It gives you high quality video that you can easily download. It's an MP4 file you can drag and drop to your computer, and you can use it for training, documentation purposes, what have you. It also includes survey mode, and it cut this off, I apologize, a higher dynamic range, which is 1200 degrees Fahrenheit or approximately 650 degrees Celsius. So that higher dynamic range is preferred by a lot of our European firefighters overseas. Then we have the Attack Pro Plus, which is NFPA 1801 certified, and that is up to the new standard, which is 1930. Many departments use grant money to do that, or they require NFPA 1801 certification for compliance. It's great. That's the camera you need to buy. However, the newest model does include survey mode. Existing customers who bought an Attack Pro Plus who don't have survey mode can also pay a fee to Seek Thermal or their vendor and download it to it. So basically, if you look at all four models, they have the same basic performance spec, with the exception of the Attack Pro VRS does have a slightly higher dynamic range. If you want to review these, we have webinars on our YouTube channel and on Seek Thermal's channel, where you can go over the Attack Pro, the Attack Pro VRS, and the Attack Pro Plus. We haven't done one for the S, but you can watch the value of survey mode, which will break that down for you. One of the things that I've enjoyed about using this camera, when we talk about specifications, is the newer model cameras today have focused on giving firefighters a much longer battery life, which is great because the last thing you want is a battery that clonks out on you when you need it. So it claims a 6-hour battery life. I've gotten approximately 8 hours out of it. If you use the flashlight, it will cut your battery life in half if you leave it on. The Attack Pro series does have the widest field of view on the market, 42 degrees vertically by 57 degrees horizontally. Those of you who have taken our class before understand if you flip that camera sideways, you now have the tallest field of view, allowing you to see floor and ceiling in a very large space in one view, which takes 6-sided scans down to 3 moves. It does have a 320 by 240 sensor in it. That's 76,800 pixels. Seek is the only manufacturer that uses mixed gain mode, which if you've heard us speak before, we talk about the power of mixed gain mode, making decision making easier. You don't have to wait to look for that triangular icon that goes up in the left-hand corner indicating low sensitivity like most cameras do. And there's very little delay, if at all, when using this camera because each pixel switches independently, where every other camera on the market requires a percentage of pixels to hit a certain temperature point and then switch, which often causes slight delay. Most of your cameras you see out there will come with TI Basic. What is TI Basic? That is the standard NFPA firefighting mode. It comes on in TI Basic and it says black, gray, white, yellow, orange, red is your color palette. If you push that black button and hold it and move over to the spot temperature mode or survey mode, NFPA requires them to have a plus icon in the lower left-hand corner. That means you have decided to go outside of TI Basic and you are plus something else. So that's manufacturer specific. And every one of their cameras operates at a 25 frames per second or 25 hertz refresh rate. We'll show you why 25 hertz at mixed gain is faster than many 60 hertz cameras. And an often overlooked piece of performance specification by many firefighters and many fire departments is the thermal sensitivity rating of the camera. That's rated in units millikelvin. What is that? That is the ability of the camera to identify objects of similar temperature side by side in an environment. NFPA says that these fire service cameras shall not be greater than 80 millikelvin. If you drop down to a lower number, it gives you a better chance of differentiating objects and things of different heat signatures, such as a 92-degree victim, skin temps between 92 and 96, and a 95-degree pile of clothes. That is huge. It helps you with object identification, such as stairs, chairs, things of that nature. And every Seek Thermal Attack Pro has a built-in flashlight, which I have to eat my words on that. I didn't think that was going to be a good feature, but everybody loves that one. So, like I say in marriage, I can be right or I can be happy. I chose to be happy. So firefighters are happy, I'm happy. If you look at the options and how they're broken down, I've got them in 3 slides here for you to see. This is from a recent training we did back in April. You can see looking through the window in this Forge Fire Company container here that we have TI Basic in the first picture. If you look at Seek's cameras, even though the Attack Pro, the Attack Pro S, Attack Pro VRS are not NFPA certified, SEEK has decided to give their customers the benefit of when they turn the camera on, the spot temperature is not there. I think that's huge because that helps firefighters not misinterpret this data. That's TI basic, black, gray, white, yellow, orange, red, 0 to 1025 Fahrenheit in all their cameras except for VRS, which goes to 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. Or if we're looking at Celsius like we are here, it's 0 to 650. So we will start to see colorization at 302 degrees Fahrenheit or 150 degrees Celsius. If we press the button and switch it over to TI Basic Plus, the first feature that pops up is the spot temperature, which, as you know, that's not something I recommend, but it is a feature that is offered on most cameras. If you press the button and hold it again, you can engage survey mode in any of the cameras that survey mode is equipped with. Survey mode is in Attack Pro S, Attack Pro VRS, and Attack Pro Plus standard now. If you want to add it to an existing Attack Pro or existing Attack Pro Plus that did not have it, you can contact SEEK Thermal or your vendor, and they can allow you to purchase that and place that on that camera. So you can do that for an additional price, which is listed on this. In our last webinar, we did the value of survey mode. So your Attack Pro does have an upgrade available, and the Attack Pro Plus for existing customers have an upgrade available. But my understanding is the new Attack Pro Pluses that are coming out have survey mode built into them. So you're basically getting the same level of performance in each model, but you're adding a little bit extra feature, allowing you to use your funds more wisely if you choose not to have those, or you just want a particular feature. Because in many cases, some departments want survey mode, but they don't want the camera to record. That's a great feature or reason why they would have the S model versus the VRS model. And when you're buying several cameras, those dollar amounts do add up. I understand that, trust me, because we're self-funded here at Insight Fire Training. When I asked you what TI Basic was versus TI Basic Plus, I've got a great picture here from my friend Anoop, where we were doing a dollhouse training here, and you can see we have TI Basic on the right in the Attack Pro, and then we have TI Basic Plus, where we engage survey mode on the Attack Pro VRS. I have an article that you might be interested in the critical role of thermal imaging color palettes from International Fire Safety Journal, our friends over there. You scan that, you can go to that article. If you look up NFPA 1801, the current standard actually shows up as 1930. There's several standards consolidated in there. It'll still say 1801 within that. Under section 6.5, it talks about TI Basic and TI Basic Plus. NFPA requires all fire service cameras to start in that mode. And another thing about that is if you go to TI Basic Plus with its spot temperature survey mode, ladies and gentlemen, if you're using a newer camera and it's updated and up to date on its firmware, and you're operating the fire and you don't want to be in survey mode or you don't want the spot temperature on, all you have to do is tap that green button one time in the majority of newer cameras today, and it'll go right back to TI Basic. No questions asked. If it doesn't, you need to check the firmware updating or potentially send it back. That is in NFPA 1801 1930 section 6.5, where it explains TI Basic and TI Basic Plus. Understand about TI Basic though, the only rule they have is that it shall be, as far as cold to hot, colors black, gray, white, yellow, orange, red, progressing as the temperature increases. The manufacturer gets to choose when they show color. That's right, the manufacturer, as long as no more than 50% of that overall color bar or temperature range is more than 50% grayscale. I say that again, no more than 50% of that overall temperature range shall be grayscale. Make sure you look at that, because not everyone follows that. What does that color palette look like in the Attack Pro series for TI Basic? You will notice that many manufacturers have realized that showing color early gives a firefighter a warning. Waiting to show color late is not a good idea in an environment that has high heat release rate fuels, ventilation limited, and now we have lithium ion and spray foam and all the bad things that are in houses where fire growth is exponential. Firefighters need earlier warnings and be able to see the problem earlier to fix it. The Attack Pro does that by colorizing early if you're in TI Basic starting at 302 degrees Fahrenheit or 150 degrees Celsius. You notice that it switches to orange at approximately 575 Fahrenheit and then red at approximately 850. The difference between the Attack Pro series and the Attack Pro VRS is that VRS goes up to 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. In my opinion, Doesn't really matter because once you get to 850, you can't tell me what shade of red is 850, 950, 1050, or 1200. Look at it and try for yourself. If you're trying to use the spot temperature, good luck, because as you know, the spot temperature is grossly inaccurate, and it matters where you point it, what angle you're at, distance to the target, the optical density of smoke, and how much moisture is in that environment, which will all account for those variances. And we can't control those. So it's better for us to understand we're looking at an apparent temperature, and it helps us make decisions. It's not a thermometer, but it does give us more information than operating in complete zero visibility. What does that look like? Well, we were fortunate enough to go to the IFIW event in Cheyenne, Wyoming, where UL was participating in a research burn, and we got to play or be a fire buff alongside an acquired structure. This is a second floor burn where they're allowing the fire to grow and come out of the bedroom into the main, what I would call atrium area. It's one of these Cinderella staircases, beautiful, big open space. And then you'll see the fire growth, and you'll also notice when they take the windows from the outside and allow the fire to vent and then hit it from the outside before they come up and hit it. But I want you to see the difference between the GoPro view and TI Basic and the Attack Pro. Here we go. There's your convection currents from the camera moving across the ceiling. You can see the difference in where the colorization is, the detail in the stair railing, parts of the wall. You also saw when I scanned back over, you can actually see the studs in the walls through the drywall. They're starting to hit the fire from the outside. You'll see the heat contracting back. And you also see the firefighters getting in position for this research burn. This is a research burn, not a 1403 burn. And then they'll move in and extinguish the fire. Notice how quickly the fire diminished from the transitional attack, and all the convection and heat basically contracted and pulled back from that hit. Notice how the image is also balanced out, that when we're looking at the still shot here, we can see the lower areas with detail along with the higher areas where there's higher heat because of mixed gain mode. So that's a value of this device. When we talk about survey mode, a lot of people are unaware if they put the latest firmware update on the device, they don't have to press and hold the flashlight option button to change modes. The standard instructions state to press and hold the flashlight button for 3 seconds, then it engages the spot temperature, and press and hold for 3 seconds again, and it engages the survey mode. Well, no too many patient firefighters. So the firmware update allows the FirePro 300 and the Attack Pro series to operate the exact same way as far as pressing buttons. If you press the power button and the flashlight buttons simultaneously, you will click through those application modes in less than a second. Click, 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 you're in survey mode. As I mentioned earlier, you can preset that when you come off the fire truck, and you can see the problem earlier. If you enter an environment that's greater than 150 degrees Celsius or 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and you see too much color in survey mode, all you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is take that wonderful gloved hand and tap that green button one time, and you're right back to TI Basic with no delay, and you can see the image more balanced. So survey mode is great for low heat environments, trying to find the fire, overhaul, size up, any of those incidents where you're trying to find these lower heat or getting firefighters to recognize heat that they're not seeing in grayscale. Survey mode is a powerful feature in that. This is the actual color palette for survey mode. For those of you who didn't get to watch the value of survey mode in our last webinar, we colorized beginning at 65 degrees Celsius or 150 degrees Fahrenheit with a maximum temperature range, it's important for you to know this, of 300 degrees Fahrenheit or 150 degrees Celsius. Why is that important? Because old cameras would white out due to heat. You will see something called saturation. If you go into an environment which is greater than 300 floor to ceiling, you will see nothing but a big bright red screen. Just tap the green button, boom, you go right back to TI Basic. If you look closely on the screen, the display, you will see that plus icon that I talked about a little bit ago in the bottom left-hand corner. And Seek Thermal also has 2 other indicators to let you know you're in survey mode. 1, the blue S. 2, when you're in survey mode, instead of black, gray, white, yellow, orange, red, you will hints of blue in the cooler ranges, and then colorization engages with yellow at 65 degrees Celsius or 150 degrees Fahrenheit. That's earlier than any other camera other than Bullard's electronic thermal throttle, which is also a great investigative mode color palette. What does that look like? We were in Spain and we thought we'd play with that. This is a container where we're doing an event with Seek Thermal, and this was actually in the Malaga area where I got to work with some amazing guys and gals from Spain. I want you to see the difference and listen in as we talk about it. We have lots of these simple, short explanation videos on our YouTube channel, along with social media. Please feel free to check those out. We also were fortunate enough to capture this great little snapshot from the UL research burn in IFIW in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Our friends from Laramie Fire Department up there, great people. I'd love for you to check this out, because what I have here is a great shot of the hallway looking down towards the fire room. What's neat about this video is you see the GoPro view, and then you see the TIC view through survey mode, and it tells you that the fire is actually in the room to your left. You can see what we call thermal bridging heat signatures coming through the wall, indicating how severe the fire is in that room. Check this out. Optically, I can see fire underneath that door. That's pretty bad. Got good smoke entrainment, air entrainment, but look at that. You see the drywall, and you literally see how hot it is coming through the wall. That heat, that energy is being detected by the camera in survey mode, showing colorization early, telling the firefighter, hey, you go in this room, this hallway, that fire is immediate to your left, and that door is about to burn through. You can look at the top of the door, and we've got red right there. So when they open that door, it's game on at that point. Make sure they're ready. So this gives you a quick little size up of where my fire is, how severe it is, and when I should open the nozzle and go to work. Great tool to help firefighters assessing the situation. And as we've mentioned before, one of the things we reiterate is the 4 ways cameras are currently operating in the market. You see them in single gain or special application mode, such as survey mode and Seek, search and rescue mode, and FLIR, electronic thermal throttle, and Bullard. Argus has one called size up mode. And the majority of cameras on the market are dual gain, which they have the entire temperature span divided into 2 spans, high and low sensitivity. In thermography, it's called high and low gain. That's been from 2013 to current, where NFPA requires manufacturers who use dual gain to put a green triangle inside of a square in the upper left-hand corner when the camera picks up a certain level of heat and switches to low sensitivity. It is supposed to be an indicator or a warning to firefighters that the overall temperature has increased within the field of view, and they should catch that. However, those green triangles are not easy to see in certain cameras. If you don't know when yours does switch, shoot us an email or check it out on our YouTube channels, and we'll give you information on that. There are a few cameras on the market that are called tri-gain. Scott X380, which is no longer in production, Argus, and Leader. These cameras split the entire dynamic range into 3 spans because they're trying to measure upwards of 1,000 degrees Celsius or 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't ask me why they want to measure something that hot when your face piece is in trouble at 500 to 600 degrees. So you have to realize that those cameras break that down differently and will show each span differently depending on their programming. It is imperative, it is extremely important that firefighters learn their thermal imaging camera, not just any random one on thermal imaging training. This has to be end user specific if you're doing training on your camera. It's also imperative that you standardize and have the same brand model camera across the board, because if you mix and match them and they show the fire differently, you're creating multiple reasons for misinterpretation. And Seek is the only one on the market that uses mixed gain currently. Their programming allows each pixel to switch between high and low gain or high and low sensitivity independently, which balances out that image as a seamless transition change where you don't see that lay or lag or delay that you see in a majority of cameras. And this is available through Seek Thermal in their products, which you see on the market today. What does that look like? Well, we have a webinar here that you can check out as a reminder, but I've got several examples in this video where we're comparing two very good cameras looking through a window in our VES scenario we did at Firehouse Expo when Firehouse Expo was still around. You can see the differences in grayscale, and both cameras are showing the firefighters moving down the hallway and searching that space. The difference in the Attack Pro is we saw colorization on the burn barrel that the FLIR did not in this particular example. So it allows us to see that. Both are showing convection currents, both are showing colorization when we talk about black, gray, and white, but when we talk about yellow colorization, mixed gain mode shows it faster. Here's 60 hertz versus 25 hertz. And if you notice, the 25 hertz mixed gain camera outperforms the 60 hertz because of the way it processes that data. As we go from looking at this wall from my friend Brian who filmed this to looking at the fire, we can see that delay. And if you notice, right when the camera goes across, Seek instantly colorizes while the other camera needs 1.5 seconds to catch up. Many firefighters have mistaken the picture on the left as whiteout because they're going too fast. You need to learn your camera. Is there a delay? And you better not outrun your camera because most firefighters do. I see them scanning, even with mixed gain mode cameras, so fast, there is no way they can process that information that fast. You need to scan slow and smooth, as instructor Thomas Anderson says in our classes, so that you can process that data and work fast. So my friend and mentor, Chief Mitchum, who just retired, always said, take seconds and win minutes. I can't emphasize that enough. So why does mixed gain mode make a Attack Pro different? This is an example of how it balances that image out. This is in South Adams County area, Denver, Colorado area. We're looking at a door and we simply rotate the camera sideways and it balances out the image, allowing us to see that lower area that we didn't see initially. So if you watch from the very beginning, we back it up, we start in pistol grip, standing up, lazy firefighter scan, as I call it. And when we gradually rotate the camera, it automatically adjusts, balances out the image, allowing us to see the cooler areas where the firefighters are, where the victim is. You can even see the furniture. Turning the camera sideways in this case with the Attack Pro allows you to see the floor and ceiling in one view, one shot. That's extremely important. The two areas we're most concerned with, the floor and that area where victims can be found, and the upper areas where we see the heat, the convection currents, and the fire's intensity are able to be viewed in that one image. Not wasting time, we're making the most of it by taking that time and seeing more of that data. And mixed gain mode allows you to see that faster, smoother, and easier. If you want to learn more about anything I shared with you today, we've also made it even easier for you. We have our YouTube channel. If you go to it and subscribe, we have the brands and models of cameras broken down so you can find different cameras you're looking for. We have webinar channels. We have subject matter playlists like size up, basement fire, search, that we upload 1 or 2 videos a week. We currently have over 450 videos on our channel. And then we have a specific link on our website where you can see all the webinars we've done with Seek Thermal thus far. This one will be uploaded there too once it's processed. There's 21 hours of free webinars that we partnered with Seek Thermal to produce. So we thank them for that. And then we have a free Google Drive for anyone who takes our webinars that you can log on. It has all kinds of resources, Seek Thermal resources, other brands of resources, lesson plans that anybody can use. We want firefighters to use this information to help them do their job, to get home to their family. We can't do that if we hold back information from you. And thanks to our partnership with Seek Thermal, we're able to do that and do something that no one's ever been able to do before, which is provide free training around the world. Our next event is in Ohio. There will be 3 classes, July 22nd, 23rd, 24th. These classes are almost already full. If you scan this QR code, if there's any spots left, you can sign up. But now you know this, every month, it is listed on our website. We will be going somewhere with Seek Thermal. We usually announce the registration within 3 weeks of the event. And you can log in, sign up, and go to these classes for free, whether you're in the area or not. In this case, this is in the Ohio area, partnered with Central. The Central Ohio Fools have hosted the first 3 days of it for us. We thank them for their support. There's the location of those events, but you have to sign up and register. You can't just show up. So please make sure you check out that information. Take advantage of these free training events. Fire departments are struggling with training budgets. The world's cutting budgets left and right. We know that struggle. You're able to get free training, whether your department supports or not. We're going to support you. Seek Thermal's partner with us to make this happen. And we're even offering 1 to 2 webinars every single month for free. And there's another one coming at the end of this month. Please don't miss this one because this is the most important way you can use your camera, which is fireground size up and TIC use. We're going to focus on the importance of size up. We're going to talk about some uncommon concepts that can lead to some extraordinary results, such as thermal bridging, locating where the fire is, where it's going, and developing an incident action plan in a matter of seconds that allows you to do your job and do it better than before. Please check out these resources, these training opportunities. We're working hard with manufacturers such as Seek Thermal to make this happen, where firefighters can get these opportunities and they can be better for the sake of the citizen and their family, which is our mission here at Insight Fire Training. This is my contact information website. If you go to it and hit contact us, it goes directly to me. If you're looking for resources, please look at the blog. There's lots of stuff there before you hit contact us and ask me where something is. There is tons of stuff there. Our event calendar is there. We post on social media 2 to 3 times every single day on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, which is now X. There's 5 of my instructors now on Facebook sharing on their respective pages. And yes, we even have a TikTok page. I don't look at it very much, but it's on there and we post on it. And we have a private Facebook group where we share dozens and dozens of free resources on a regular basis called Tactical Thermal Imaging. If you go under Facebook and type that in and hit join, you got to answer 2 questions. You're in the group. We only allow first responders and individuals who want to learn about thermal imaging for first responder use, such as fire and EMS and police. It is not a gun club. It's not for using scopes and things of that nature, but it is designed to help firefighters and first responders with free training, free resources to help you do your job more intelligently aggressive. We thank you for watching today. I'll hand it back over to Jordan. Jordan, thank you for the time and thank you for supporting this webinar.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andy. If anyone has any further questions after this webinar, please feel free to reach out directly to Andy or myself. We'd be happy to answer those questions. If there was something that Andy mentioned that you wanted to go back and reference, we will be sending out a recording of this webinar to everyone who registered at some point later today. With that being said, thanks, Andy, for your time. Thank you to everyone who registered for today's webinar, and we'll close it out from here.
Thanks, Jordan.